before you start like running to make money, make sure that you understand these things and that you've invested either the time or the money. And, people like to say they move in silence, but if you are moving with confidence and proudly, those who are in your corner will be willing to help you in ways that you just can't even imagine. I truly believe that God had me have my son when I did to humble me from the beginning. And if you think that you're going to make it on your own by your own power to where you're trying to go, then you're overestimating yourself, because even people aren't not in our culture, when they go to the bank and say, I need a loan, they're saying I need help. So it's okay to say I need help.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl Bianca B, and welcome to the Bianca B Show, where we talk about business, finances, and friendships. So I'm super excited to have this guest on our show today. Her name is Jessica. She is known as the DMV lawyer. I'm super excited to talk with her because I feel like law is something that business owners and entrepreneurs miss a lot, especially in entertainment. And so I'm super excited. Her videos are super impactful. Her story is even impactful. So how are you, Jessica?
I'm great. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So give people a little backstory because, your journey in law school, you were a single mom, struggling, like kind of give us a little bit of your backstory before we get into the business portion.
Yeah, so like you said, a single mom. So I had my son when I was studying music in undergrad. So my undergrad degree is in music education, vocal performance, and I'm sorry, piano performance, vocal education. And people were like, "You're going to law school? There's nothing to do with music." But I thought for sure I was going to be an entertainment attorney. So I couldn't stop. I had him. I needed to keep going. So he would come to classes with me sometimes. He went to daycare on campus. He really was like a big motivation for me to continue to go as hard as I did. I was blessed to have a really good support system of people that knew me and people who didn't know me, like people who just saw that I was working really hard and by God's grace wanted to bless me and my son. So people would feed my child. They would watch him sometimes, like the security guards on campus would watch him if I had a class and he was a little restless. So after law school, I went and I worked at a big firm, one of those like kind of dream jobs that most law students aspire for. Didn't work out for me. It wasn't a good fit. So I said, you know what, let me go out on my own. After doing a little bit of exploration, I did meet with a career advisor for a period of time, and that helped me so much. And ever since then, I've been a full-time entrepreneur. I started my firm solo, and then I merged with another solo last January, which was like the best thing ever. And things are going great.
That's amazing. And just to be able to be a mom and just gravitate and just learn the business and just keep going, that's so inspiring. I know a lot of mothers out there who can't even juggle life in general, let alone like law school, So I kind of want to get a little bit about what are some legal steps that entrepreneurs can make, when it comes to law, because with starting a business, I think that, a lot of us are super creative,
Yeah.
but we forget the legal part of stuff a
Right.
lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I come across that often where your craft is so personal to you that you feel that that's all you need to do is just be really good at your craft and make money monetizing that. But to legally operate in most jurisdictions, whatever state you're in, you need to register your company or your business within that state so that it's recognized as its own entity. There are all kind of benefits for doing that, and there are different ways to do so. So the easiest way is probably to structure your business as what we would call a pass-through. So the company is treated as an extension of yourself, and you register as a pass-through, and then when you do your taxes, it's on your personal tax return versus like the company doing the taxes separately, and then all those things. But in addition to registering the business, you might have to also have a business license depending on what field you're in. So for me, because I'm an attorney, I don't need a business license because I'm already licensed to practice law in the states where I am at. So different jurisdictions just look and see, does my state require me to have a license to braid hair, for example? Some states do, some states don't. Then get an EIN number, so that you are recognized as a taxable entity separate from yourself. Don't use your own social. Then you'll want to see if your business is regulated and what those regulations are. So, does your regulated business, for example, being a real estate agent, do you have to do continuing education? Just make sure you're aware of what's required, because once you do these things one time, you're like, okay, whew, I did so much. But then there might be quarterly reports that you have to file. There may be property tax statements that you need to submit, and you'll be getting these notices and you're like, what even is this? Or you might forget that your business license is a 2-year license, and then here you are, year 3, you don't have a license because you just forgot to put it on a calendar.
Right.
So keep track of all the things that you did, and then set calendar reminders for yourself. That's what I did. I'm like, okay, 2027, make sure, do blah, blah, blah. And that will help you as you're getting started to just know that you've checked all of those boxes.
That's cool. And should you go through companies like LegalZoom? A lot of these companies are expensive. You know, when you're a startup, it's like, okay, what do I do? So any recommendations on like websites or things that you suggest for like people who are like social media influencers, for example, people who are independent artists? Do you think that, how should they go about it?
Is if you are not in a place to financially invest in getting the information through an attorney or a CPA or someone like that, then you need to invest the time in making sure that you have thoroughly read all of the materials that are available to you. So I'm in Maryland. I practice law in Maryland and in DC. And in those states, all the information you need is available on their websites.
Right.
It's confusing. It can be really hard to navigate, but it's there. So if you don't have the money to pay an attorney a few $100s to tell you in maybe an hour or so what you need to do, just invest that time going on the websites, because a lot of states are super helpful in helping you navigate it. And if you don't understand on the website, take it a step further, go to the local office and say, look, I don't understand, what is a comptroller? What is that? And why am I having to pay them? And the people who work in the buildings may be able to point you in the right direction. They may have like handouts that you can take home. So before you start like running to make money, make sure that you understand these things and that you've invested either the time or the money. The other thing was a bank account. I forgot to mention a bank account. Have a separate bank account, because that's going to be important as you go down the line for a ton of different reasons why you should have your money separate from your business's money.
Got it. And, you know, being someone who is on social media and like your name and like trademarking your name and registering your name, how should you go about that too?
I've actually have trademarked DMV lawyer.
Okay.
I trademarked it some time ago, which has actually been a good thing because I found someone's trying to use it. So now we're going to take action against that. But if your brand is a particular, if you want to have name recognition and that is going to have importance to you, you should financially and legally protect it. To trademark it, if you go through an attorney, they're going to charge you a lot of money, just being honest.
Let me tell you, okay, continue. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I've seen anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 and up. You can go on the USPTO website, and again, if you're willing to invest the time to understand it and do it properly, you can figure out how to do it yourself. But that process is long. It takes over a year or so for them to fully register your trademark. And if you ignore or miss the emails and communications from them, then you've done all that for nothing. But I think it's somewhere around $400 or $500 to do it on your own to trademark that name. I have trademarked many names thinking that I was going to do something with it, and I never did. So it's, if you have an idea and you believe in like Bianca, the Bianca B show, register it, because at least it's yours, you own it. Someone can't pop up in another blog space and say, I'm the Bianca B show. And you can, you know, take appropriate legal action. Social media is really easy to allow yourself to be stolen from. So I think trademarking is even more important now, because there are accounts who literally just like look to see what's up and coming so that they can prey upon you.
Yeah. And so going into, a business owner and, we have the financial part of things. If someone who can't afford a lawyer, who can't afford to do certain things, what do you suggest that they do?
So when I started my firm, I was broke. I mean, I had no money. Okay. And I was an attorney, still broke. So I just kind of bookmarked those things. And what I did was I went to people who I knew were generous in their time and would be willing to just talk to me. So I did informational interviews with other attorneys to learn how they got started. I again looked at free resources online. I was so broke, I would just go to like Barnes and Noble and read the books in the store that I couldn't afford to buy because I'm like, I have to figure this out somehow. And people like to say they move in silence, but if you are moving with confidence and proudly, those who are in your corner will be willing to help you in ways that you just can't even imagine. So a lot of the things that got me started were from people who just donated their time and their resources. So I don't subscribe to the move in silence thing, because if you're telling your family, hey, I'm trying to start a candle company, they might have people who need candles for an event, or they might say, hey, do you need anything? And closed mouths don't get fed. Say, actually, I need $50 to register my domain. You think someone who loves you isn't going to give you $50 to register your domain?
My next question, I'm gonna let you continue, but I want to get into deeper conversation, but continue.
Yeah, I have so many examples of me just being, it takes a lot of humility though,
Yeah.
because to go from working the job I had to saying, I'm too broke to do anything, it was very humbling, but it was worth it. Within my first year, I had a whole website that was developed and maintained by someone for free. To this day, they still maintain my website for me. I People had given me like a printer, ink, paper, because that's how broke I was. A friend of mine through their company was able to fund a launch party, a very expensive launch party for my firm, just because I shared what I was doing. So just be humble, and people will, like, you'll be surprised. People will come out of the woodwork for you.
What's so crazy going into the friendship part of things? A lot of us aren't humble. A lot of us, the ego taps in, especially in our culture about asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is something I still like. Everybody knows in my family, I'm very stubborn. I'm like, I work for this show and I work for that show. It's canceled. And now I'm broke, like, but I'm afraid to ask for help. Like, that is something I really, really struggle with, is asking for help, along with a lot of people in our community. So how can you get to, what was your awakening of asking for help, or have you always been that way?
I have not always been that way, okay, at all. So I truly believe that God had me have my son when I did to humble me from the beginning. Because the way that I was sort of sailing through life, like straight A's, honors, blah, 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 I didn't need anybody. I'm like, I'm untouchable. I can do anything. Then all of a sudden I had this baby and I'm in college and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So I think that God required me to have to ask for, I had no other choice but to humble myself and to understand that any blessing that I had was not of my own doing, but through God. And that if I was going to receive blessings, I need to be a blessing to others, which requires us to be humble. And from the beginning, when I saw how kind and generous strangers would be, I said, okay, I need to trust that the people who love me will also be kind and generous. And I've been on this earth 30 some years, and I have yet, in all of the stumbling I've done, to have someone come to my face and say, you suck, you're awful, you're terrible. And I've had clients who weren't happy. I've had opposing parties and people who, were upset with me in the process. But in terms of someone who I thought was in my corner, if they talked about me behind my back, I never heard it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They aren't coming to my face and saying like, you're stupid, this is dumb. And there will be people who won't clap for you
Yeah.
when you're struggling. And then when you're blowing up, it's, oh my gosh, Bianca, I always knew. And that's when that discernment comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually read a book about discernment a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that also helped me in how I move. Like, I'm not going to talk to everybody about everything,
Yeah.
but it's helped me understand who I can trust and who will be an asset and not a liability in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have to, I think it's a heart posture thing. Like, humility comes from us, it comes from within. And if you think that you're going to make it on your own by your own power to where you're trying to go, then you're overestimating yourself, because even people aren't not in our culture, when they go to the bank and say, I need a loan, they're saying, I need help. So
Wow.
you should see it the same way.
Wow. I never thought of it from that perspective.
They're
It's
saying it's the same thing. So it's okay to say, I need help. It's okay to say, I can't do all of this on my own, because really no one really expects you to.
Yeah.
And who wants to be at the top of the mountain by themselves? Like, I did this. Okay, well, no one's there to clap for you.
I needed that message. That was a good, because I'm definitely one of those people where it's like, I can do it, I got it, and it's that strong, powerful woman
Yeah.
deal. And you're a lawyer and you're in the DMV area, and you have worked with so many different people throughout your career. Was there ever a pivotal moment in your career where you were like the only one, or you had to fight and prove yourself, and how did you manage that portion of your
Oh yeah. That's happened a lot, a lot. And it made me hungrier. So there have been times where I've been the only Black person in the courtroom. Like, I have a head wrap on, right? And I started wrapping my hair because I couldn't afford to get my hair done, and my hair was natural. And I'm like, all right, I'm tired of the buns, so let me find a way to look neat and polished. So I wear my hair wrapped in court, and I remember a judge said something to me about it. And I'm like, no, I will not remove my head wrap, because I thought about it. Like, there will be pro se litigants, there will be other attorneys who may be Muslim, who have cultural or religious ties to their hair. And I want to, if it makes this judge upset with me, that's okay, if it makes it easier for him to deal with someone else. So what ended up happening is I just got more firm in making sure that the only thing that they can complain about is something that I can't control. And I was fine with that. You're not going to complain and say that I wasn't prepared, that I was late, that I was unpolished. You might just not like the color of my skin, and there's nothing I can do about that. You might not like my vernacular, and that's okay. So I'm like, okay, I have to make sure that I'm just on top of my craft, because sometimes in our culture, we are not on top of things the way we should. Hairstylists will show up an hour late. Your barber will cancel your appointment last minute, and we accept that from ourselves. But when you're the only one, you have to recognize that there's a standard, and we have to always meet that standard. It doesn't matter that you're Black, brown, or whatever, and that your people might accept it. And so, okay, with my clients, I can relate to them a certain way, but when I'm the only one, I need to make sure that I'm meeting the general standard that's applicable to all businesses, to all people. So it's been a journey, but
you made it through. But I watched an interview with you, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's been through so much, and just the way you've healed, like you have a sense of peace. And you talk about trauma, and I want to also get into that a little bit about, like, your content. Also, you help a lot of families out there. And what was your healing process like as a woman, as a young parent? What was your journey like?
It's been a rough journey, I can tell you that. So that's also where the asking for help comes from. There's no way to heal yourself and heal others at the same time while you're trying to do everything else. So I think that the having to ask for help with my business helped prepare me to ask for help for myself personally. So I was able to even though it's still hard, say, hey, I need a day, you know, or I don't feel like cooking this week when the kiddos gotta eat.
Mhm.
And staying like close to God. I'm not saying that that's been consistent, because there are times where I'm like, forget it, it's not working. Um, but really having those strong relationships with my friends and my family who can tell when I might need someone to step in has helped a lot. Um, the most important thing I've done though is prioritizing my self-care above everything else, above making money, above being there for anyone else. So if I need to make sure that I get some extra sleep, then I started prioritizing that, because I used to be afraid. I used to be afraid to take care of myself because I thought I would miss $1. And that was completely ruining me mentally and physically. So like this year, for the last year, I've been back in the gym, been eating healthy, because I'm like, this is the only way I'm gonna be able to sustain all the stuff that I worked for.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's hard. It is so hard. That's probably the hardest thing that I've dealt with, is the personal healing, and then constant healing, because
It never
it's
is.
always something. It's always something. When you ask me that, like, I'm coming off of a week of like, so I'm like, girl, I don't know. Ask me next week.
No, seriously, I'll be 30 this year, and it's that weird pivot, and it's like it's weird a little bit. It's different, and I'm kind of like in that stage of like, last year I went through so much stuff, but this year that's on my goal, is to learn how to ask for help. That's something I wrote down, like, how can I ask for help? Because it's been a journey, and I'm glad I spoke with you today about that. So what is next for your business?
So next, so for the law firm, we definitely want to continue to grow. We just hired a new attorney. She started in May. So we want to continue to grow and just have like a super strong presence here in the DMV area. And I feel like we're on that path. I also have a wellness company that still working to get off the ground, working on getting capital and all of that. So I'm hoping that within the next year we'll be fully launched, fully up and going, and able to send out our products all throughout the US. And then for me, I just need, to continue to, like we were talking about, healing, making sure that I'm healing so that I can be a vessel and just continue to bless families that I come in contact with.
That's amazing. And where can people follow you?
On Instagram, I am DMV_lawyer. On TikTok, also DMV_lawyer. And you can always Google my name and you'll find my information for my law firm, and you can reach out that way.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. It's your girl, Bianca B. Follow me on Instagram at It's Bianca B. Also follow Bianca B Show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Bianca B.